You know, I do lots and lots of events. It's great to come here today and just to see so many people. I mean, they put out all these chairs and they're always full. When we were talking in the office about today's event being the day after the night before, we thought to ourselves, is that a good idea? A bit worried about David Bottomley. Would he be okay? Would he turn up or not? Given his newfound fame. But we saw him turn up today and we thought, actually, this is the best day to have an event today. I was listening to the radio. I was hoping to get an invite last night, but it didn't come through. And you know, Luke Matheson scores that goal, 16-year-old, and everyone says, isn't it fantastic? You know, because he scored a goal, 16. He's been at Rochdale all his life, pretty much all his life, and now he's suddenly on the radar. But he's been on the radar at Rochdale for a long time, and I think that sums up what Rochdale does. If you want to follow the conversation on Twitter, you can. The hashtag is #ThisIsRochdale. Mention these badges as well. If you've not got a badge, wear it with pride. We're all wearing these badges as well. Richard Hagan at Crystal Doors has sorted that out. We hear a lot in the news about sport, and I think sport does define an area. It puts an area on the map. If you look at Rochdale, it's not just about the football club as well, and it's not just about David and the players. It's so much more than that, and that's what we're going to try and do today. We're going to talk about how Rochdale does things differently, and you can see that by the eclectic mix in the room. I mean, I was speaking to Hopwood DePriest. Hopwood, say hello. You know, it's the only what a great guy he is. You know, met him for the first time. You know, the lights weren't even on, and he smiled at me, and everything was bright. And he had that slight Californian accent. And I thought it was fantastic. And Steve Kontrovich has turned up as well. Always nice to see Steve turn up, fashionably late, fashionably dressed as always. And I think if you look at the room, you've just got this real mix of, you know, this eclectic mix of people, and I think that really sums up Rochdale. That article we saw in Business Live was fantastic. The article about David Bottomley, you know, it's a 4-page feature, front page cover. If you've not seen the article, David's got 2,500 copies in his already signed as well. So what we're going to do, we're going to hear from David in a second, and we're going to talk about last night and what that meant to him and what it meant to the club as well. But it's not just about the football club, and it's not just about what happened last night. It's so much more than that. I'd like to invite Steve Kerr, the CEO of Rochdale Hornets, to join me on the stage, and also Siobhan McElhinny, who's going to talk about her 18-year association with Rochdale Football Club. Put your hands together for them if you would. Thank you very much. Now those microphones, just to let you know, Steve on the left, just in case. Steve, I came to visit you to talk about Rochdale Hornets, and I'll put my hand up. You know, I love football, I love cricket especially. Not a big rugby league fan, didn't know a lot about, you know, Rochdale Hornets, and I thought, right, okay, I'm involved now in Rochdale Development Agency and promoting Rochdale. Let's find out about, you know, let's find out a little bit about Rochdale Hornets. So I looked at the table, the league table, 26 defeats in 27 games. I looked at your points deficit, minus 926. I'm trying to cheer you up here. I mean, I'm trying to cheer you up. You must have the toughest gig in rugby league. You must have. Tell us how you keep yourself going.
A bit loud. Yeah, Chris. I mean, yeah, the target was actually less than negative 1,000, so I think we achieved our target there. So I think we're all right.
More positive news from Rochdale.
That's the one. So yeah, that was a goal. No, it's not been an easy season. We're not going to lie about that. There's several challenges along the way, but how do you keep yourself going? Well, we're looking to put new plans in place. I keep using the phrase being unashamedly Rochdale, and what that means is around having a strategy and a philosophy that's around growing homegrown players, giving them opportunities, and starting to build a culture where we're inviting more businesses to work with us. And we kind of put our arms around everybody in Rochdale and kind of go from the viewpoint that we want to be more locally focused, and hopefully by doing some of those things we'll start to turn the ship around and put a better product on the park and start to achieve some things.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important to look at the history of the Hornets as well. I mean, it dates back to 1871. I think Dippy was about when you started. Yeah, and we hear stuff about Bury Football Club just up the road, you know, and what's happened to them as well. So it's very important that the club's on a sound financial footing. Just talk about the heritage and the history of the Hornets, for those people who don't know in the room.
Yeah, so essentially the club is one of the oldest in the country in rugby league terms. It was founded in 1871, and I must admit, I'm not a historian, so I better get this right because we've got an ex-chairman in the room, so he's going to be putting his hand up saying, correction in a minute, but 1871, so it means we're coming up to a 150-year anniversary in 2021, which coincides with the World Cup, incidentally, which the UK will host. And I think it will be somewhere around 1895, if my memory is right, we formed what was the Northern Union back then as one of the original 22 clubs So almost 150 years in standing. We're very much part of the fabric of this town.
You've got a tough hand. You've been dealt a tough hand in terms of Rochdale. And we're talking about what the facts are, because there'll be a lot of people in the room probably don't know much about the Hornets as well. When we look at playing budgets, your playing budget, I think last season, was circa £200,000.
Yep.
The team that won, Toronto Wolfpack, just down the road, Toronto Wolfpack, £1.5 million. If you look at the TV rights, if you look at the sort of the amount of money that goes to championship teams, £4 million spread across I think 14 teams. Rochdale share £168,000. So we are straight away on the back foot, aren't we? So you've got to cut your cut accordingly, one would assume.
Yeah, absolutely. We could sit here and probably complain about the fact that it's an inequitable split in distribution and the way the money falls down from Sky to the RFL and then into our own pockets so that we can invest in the club and in the infrastructure. We could complain all we want, but it's starting to change. It's starting to even out a little bit, but it doesn't make it any easier to put together a competitive squad. And as you can see from the results this year, we haven't managed to do that. But that doesn't mean we haven't done it in the past. I think you can get a good product on the pitch. I think you can get the right people in the shirt that want to play for the badge, want to play for the town, and you can improve your performances that way if you get all the right ingredients. And it puts us in a bit of a challenge because you've got to get everything right to be competitive. You've got to make sure your planning and your recruitment's brilliant. You've got to make sure your commercial partners are the right ones. You've got to make sure that your kind of customer experience is spot on as well. So you've got to get everything right just to be able to compete. And we don't have a benefactor that we can fall back on. And we only turn over, I saw the accounts last time were 375,000. Incidentally, there was an article just this week around how much the highest paid player is at Toronto Wolfpack, the team that you mentioned, Chris. And he's on 460,000 sterling. So he's on more per year than we turn over. So that just puts it into context. And our boys had to go to Toronto 3 or 4 weeks ago and play against this chap. And it wasn't just 13 against 1 either. We wish it was, but no.
Just talk about that. As I say, as somebody who's getting into rugby league, you can tell from my accent I'm from the south. We don't play rugby league down there. It was a 30-hour trip into Canada. You've got to take the whole team over to Canada. You know that the odds are you're going to get beat. You go out there, you get beat 46-0. A lot of your players, in fact all your players have got other jobs. I think you've got a teacher, you've got a construction worker. You're one of the few non-full-time teams. You train 3 days a week. How logistically and how financially is that in terms of on the club to take everybody over to Canada? Because from the outside it sounds like a jolly, but as a CEO it's not, is it?
No, there's a lot of hard work that goes into that by not just the staff, the players, the coaches and what have you, the volunteers behind the scene. Because when you mention the finances, we're not cash rich, obviously. We spend a lot of time on bringing the right volunteers in to help us out with some of the administrative tasks, some of the key roles in the club. So it puts a lot of strain under it. If I give you an example, we started with the visa application process just to go to Canada for the team in January. We went in August. And about a week before, we still didn't have everybody on the flight. And so it does put some pressure on the administration, of course it does. And then you've got, the challenges with border control and there might be 1 or 2 indiscretions on the lads' rap sheets and stuff like that. So you've got to overcome those. But we got everyone there, and that was the main thing. We got everybody there. Everybody was in high spirits, and despite the David versus Goliath battle that was about to ensue, I think the boys put on a great performance out there, and we did so last year as well when we went to Toronto.
You mentioned last year, when I was doing my research for today's event, I typed in photographs, of that Rochdale game, and there was a great banner in the crowd. It said Rochdale Hornets World Tour, followed by the message, "My other half thinks I'm in Morrison's." I mean, how important is it to have that sense of humour?
Yeah, absolutely. That's Jim's flag. That he's a great guy, and absolutely, I think it's a bit of a play in words because we actually used to reside at the athletic ground, and Morrison's came and bought the athletic ground back in 1987, and so I think his wife still thinks he goes to the athletic ground down at Morrison's.
Is that Jim Stringer?
It's Jim Stringer, yeah.
Jim Stringer is a real character at the club. tell us about 2016, because 2016 you played Toulouse, and obviously we saw yesterday Man United, came so close, to getting beat yesterday by Rochdale. But in 2006 you went over, the Hornets went over to Toulouse. You beat them in your own backyard. How many fans did you have watching that?
One.
Jim Stringer.
Jim Stringer.
Jim Stringer. Actually, must have been some celebration that afterwards. With
there's a brilliant photo actually of Jim, and I think this is a real reflection on how the club operates and runs. Jim was out there. We had 5 days to prep from winning the semi-final to get out to Toulouse. So there's a logistical nightmare, flights and coaches and everything like that. The chairman who was in the room, the ex-chairman Mark Wynne, who was in the room, was out there as well, and he'll know better than I. But there was real belief in the camp, and you can talk about all the money you want, but 2016 we were the underdogs. We didn't have the budget that Toulouse had, that's for sure. And we went out and gave it a go, and the result was the result in that we won a David versus Goliath challenge there, and to win. I think it was the first trophy in 97 years to win that league. So it can be done. And Jim was part of that. And there's a great photo flying back with all the lads, the chairman, the staff, the coaches, everybody. And there's Jim on the end as the fan with his flag. And absolutely loved it. And it's a memory he'll never forget.
Told his wife he's in Morrison's, apparently.
And he got caught out.
Absolutely. A couple of things, because there's a couple of serious points there in terms of, you came into the club a couple of years ago, running a deficit of 22 grand. You turn it around, a profit of £19. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's huge in a way. The ownership of the club, explain that, because this is very much a fans' club, isn't it? Which sort of sums up Rochdale, really.
Yeah, absolutely. A slightly different model. It's a cooperative model in the home of the cooperative. So it's actually your club. And there's an invitation from me from corporate businesses and private sector to get involved with the club, and love to have more conversations with you around how we can do that. But it belongs to the community. And yes, we on the balance sheet there was some deficits and what have you. And what we've got to do is, one of our guiding principles is around making sure that we put basic financial principles at the heart of everything that we do, that we act morally responsible and with integrity, and we don't overspend and we don't overcommit, because actually we don't want to be in a position where Bury were in terms of football. For those of you that follow rugby league, Widnes got relegated from Super League, and they had a real challenge this year. So we don't want that to happen to Rochdale Hornets. We had to cut our cloth accordingly. We did that last year and the year before, and we run a break-even budget now. Which means it's even more important for us to position ourselves well within the community and just make sure everybody understands that there's a responsibility. I see myself as just a custodian. In a way, we're working with the board, who are all fans and members and are really passionate about the club. But yeah, it's a fans-owned model, and we're very proud of that. But it does require us to think about how we increase the number of members and increase the number of fans that come along and enjoy the product. Last
couple of questions. In terms of your attendances last season, circa 1,000, but you had some big local derbies. Now, you're not necessarily going to get them next year. You've got to travel a long way. You get quite a big... your fan base is probably, loyal fan base, probably 350-ish.
Yep,
to get into the championship, you really want a fan base locally of 1,000, don't you?
Yeah.
You've got a number of partnerships which you've really worked on in terms of with the people and companies in Rochdale. Tell us about that. And moving forward, how important is it that some of the people in this room, some of the businesses in the borough, really get behind the Hornets?
Yeah, I'm going to say this unashamedly. Really, we need your help. That's the top and bottom of it. It's a plea to the private sector to come and get involved, because this is your club, as I said before. In 2017, when I walked in the door, we had sort of roughly 4 really good quality partners and sponsors. We now have 32. We increased our commercial turnover by 330%, which is no easy task in a current Brexit climate as well, so we get that. What we're particularly proud of, though, is some of the relationships that we've built with those commercial partners. So I'll just touch on a few. And one of the things that we did is we looked at, who do we want to work with? Who kind of matches up with our values and visions and where we want to go with? So it wasn't just a case of, or who's got some money in the bank that we could grab a sponsorship deal with. And we're working with Cooney Civil Engineering Company as our headline sponsor last year, and so they've been a fantastic supporter. We have a jewel in the crown, I think, in our community foundation. And why that's important and why I mention that is actually a lot of our sponsors and partners are interested in the impact that we make in the community and the increased social value. So it's not just the fact that we might offer an advertising or a marketing spot to a sponsor, but actually we want your help to invest in your community using Rugby League as a vehicle to do that. And so one of our key partners last year was a company you'll all know is Russell Holmes. David and Andrew, fantastic supporters of the club this year. They've invested in both the club and in some of our community outreach work, where we physically branded all the rugby balls Russell Holmes, and we've been running sessions right across all 4 boroughs or five townships now.
I mean, it's worth saying.
More kids are playing.
That trust, I mean, I came to interview you ahead of today's event, and I asked you how many kids that you were involved in that week through the trust. It was 756. I just want to ask you a final question as well, in terms of about your relationship with Hotwood Hall College as well. I mean, your coach, Matt Callan is involved there as a rugby league manager as well. And you're looking to get players from the area, people like Brandon Wood, who scored 10 tries last year. He's just left. He wants to stay in the Championship, and you wouldn't stand in his way as well. Explain that relationship, because moving forward, we started with a bit of a joke about your minus points deficit, but you're so positive because you're looking to get young kids through Hotwood College playing in the shirt, playing on the pitch.
And I think that's the exciting uniqueness about what we have to offer, Chris. I mean, football club, for example, might have to shop further afield for good quality players so that they can, compete on the park, whereas we have an opportunity to invest locally and bring forth local talent players. And so we've started to do that, and part of that idea, if you like, is we've got to make sure that we are training in the borough. Let's be honest, for the last 3-4 years we've not been training in the borough, partly because we had a fantastic relationship with Warrington Wolves, a Super League club, but actually some of the facilities weren't quite what we needed. Working with Hotwood Hall College now, Julia's been a fantastic supporter, as has Chris Robinson as well there, and we now kind of reside there with our first team, and we're looking to get the women's team across there as well. And there's mutual benefit in the relationship, because we're taking students into the business so they can get work experience, and ultimately we're now training locally with some local players and putting them in the shop window. You mentioned Brandon Wood. Brandon Wood started playing rugby league 6-year-old in the town. He's got to give a lot of credit to Rochdale Mayfield, who's the amateur club that he grew up with, and he went on and did some scholarships at Bradford Bulls and what have you. But make no mistake, he was born and bred here in Rochdale. He's been schooled by the likes of Matt Callan, our head coach. And there's a great synergy now, because we've got a great relationship with the amateur club where the kids are coming through. So we've got community development into amateur rugby league, into Hotwood through the rugby academy, and then hopefully we can nurture that talent and get them into the Rochdale shirt. And because we now reside in the borough from a training point of view, we can have a say in how all of that's working.
Steve, thanks very much. Going to come to Siobhan McElhinny, football coach with Rochdale. We were talking earlier. I must just ask you about your nails. Can you just show everyone your nails? Absolutely Rochdale coloured nails. Steve's also got Rochdale coloured nails. You can't see him as well. You've been involved with the football club most of your life, actually. You were at Old Trafford yesterday. Luke Matheson, who scored the goal, you've been helping coaching him since the age of 9. What was last night like for you? So
in terms of last night, absolute dream, really. Obviously, I've kind of fallen into being a Rochdale fan, really, through my work and obviously my passion for the football club and the town, really. Last night, brilliant. The fact that Luke had scored, even more amazing. I was actually sat in the director's box at the time, so I might be a little bit croaky today, so I do apologise for that. Yeah. But absolute brilliant for just the whole of the town, really. It's been really, really good.
Talk about yourself, because from the age of 13 to 16, you played rugby. You're from Rochdale. You played rugby and football at county level. At the age of 17, you turned your back on rugby for a career, a potential career with Great Britain, to become a football coach. Very, very unusual, you know, at that stage. I know a lot about, you know, women's football.
Yeah.
What was that decision? How did that one come about?
So really going back to playing rugby league for Mayfield for a long time, Rochdale Ravens. My primary school of Holy Family which is situated in Kirkle. My head teacher was a rugby fan. Didn't play football at all. You know, we had no school football team. It was only really when we got to high school that I decided I was going to go into football. But turning my decision onto, cut long story short, I was actually a pupil of Hotwood College.
Yeah.
I went through the stage of, you know, I had too much freedom. I dropped out of college, basically. That was the end of it, really. My sister wrote off to all the local football clubs. Rochdale came in and they said, you know, we're looking to try and increase girls' football, you know, and females in sport. Would you be happy with, you know, starting as an apprentice? So I said, yeah. But so at 17, I made the decision. I was trialling for Great Britain to play rugby league, and I kind of thought, well, what's in this for me? You know, am I going to look longer, short term? Rugby league wasn't really a professional sport. Well, wasn't a professional sport at the time for females really in football. So I just thought I'll try it. Difficult decision, really difficult, because all I know really is rugby league. So, and I was, I'm not so half talented at football, but I really enjoyed playing football and stuff when I got into high school.
That's what I find interesting. Is you're a very talented footballer, and you had a real talent for coaching. So you came in here as an apprentice. You rose up through the ranks. What's unusual is that yes, you're a female coach, but you're working with, you know, males. You know, that's what's really unusual as well. And we're still going to talk to David about the academy that they've got here. You know, in terms of the academy, it's the third most successful academy in terms of getting players into first team in England and everything like that. It's not window dressing as well. As you became a coach and you grew up through the ranks, did you ever experience any sort of sexism as a female coach?
Definitely, a lot of it. But there's a main thing that does stick in my mind. A lot of people thought I was the physio. I'd turn up to training grounds and go, oh yeah, you're the physio, aren't you? No, actually I'm the football coach. But it was quite difficult at the time because this was very many moons ago, probably 18 years ago, whenever it was. And the fact that people actually thought I was the physio was quite hurting, really. But as you look back now, it's if I think about it, at the time I was only young. I just thought, oh yeah, it's, you know, but yeah, it was quite difficult.
But Rochdale sort of led the way. I mean, you know, if I look round at female coaches in men's football clubs,
yeah.
I could probably think on one hand, count on one hand as well. So even then, 17 years ago, 18 years ago, Rochdale was ahead of its time.
Yes, I was, for a very long time, was one of the only female coaches working academy football, male academy football, and I think that was kind of, Rochdale was probably one of the first clubs that have actually ever done it, I think.
Luke Matheson, he's getting a lot of attention today. He seems like a very grounded lad, you know, got his GCSEs and everything. He'll get the attention and then it'll be back to the back to the graft in a sense as well. You work with other players, Dan Adshid, you know, who's left Rochdale to go to Norwich, and I think the point you made as well, you know, about rugby players, if they go on to bigger and better things, you don't stand in their way. You wouldn't want to. Rochdale has a really good reputation and a really good academy as well. As a female coach, do you think you offer something different than a male coach?
In terms of that, I'd like to think, and people may not agree with this, but I like to think I'm a motherly figure towards the boys, and you know, it's one of those, yeah, I am trying to make you better technically, tactically, but I'm also there as to talk to, and you know, and I actually think in terms of the parents, it's a big responsibility for them to allow them for me to work with them, because I'm in the changing rooms, I'm with them probably quite a significant amount of time, so it's they have to trust me as much as I have to trust the parents to allow them to, you know, for me to look after them, kind of thing. But yeah, I really do think it's quite. I enjoy the fact that they can look up to me as you know, they might tell me things that they might not say to the mum, kind of thing, and I might go back to the parents and tell them, but then again I might not do. But
it's about trust, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's about
of
trust.
course, yeah.
I just want to ask about the Rochdale Community Trust, because you're heavily involved in that. You work with not just children, you know, you work with children as young as 2, but you work, you know, with people as old as 92 as well. And once again, this is a club who's really, you know, immersed in the community. Tell us about that work.
So the Community Trust is my full-time job really, so the Academy is my part-time job, but the Community Trust work with various different groups throughout the whole of the borough, ranging, as you said, from 2 to 92. Different things such as like basic stuff as in-school coaching, after-school coaching, and then we do walking football. We have our social group for our ladies who are going to Blackpool to Illuminations next week. But yeah, no, it's brilliant the fact that we can engage with so many different people, as obviously the Hornets do as well. So it's good that we can get out and outreach into the community, doing things that, you know, some of them, I mean, talking about our over 60s club, which some of them are 92. They come just for a social and a chit chat, and you know, they tell me things that I don't really want to know, but it's great. You know, one of them rings me up and she's, "Are you all right?" "No, well, I've been a bit poorly or whatever." So, but no, it's good. It's enjoyable. I've been there for a very long time, so, and it's been great to work with so many different people of all different cultures and backgrounds.
Final question. You're Rochdale born and bred. You know, are you more excited about Rochdale now? You know, in terms of the football club, in terms of the trust, in terms of the borough, than you've been in your lifetime before?
I'll just spring that one on
Yeah.
me.
If you say no, just cough.
Should I say yeah? Yeah, I think definitely. I probably didn't know too much about Rochdale as a place when I was growing up. Maybe because of the advertisement, the publicity, the media, all the rest of it. I think now it's such an exciting place, and I know everything that's going on within the borough. Obviously, Dippy coming, you know, the renovation of the town and stuff. I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic, and I hope it's going to get bigger and better. And well, I expect it's going to get bigger and better. So. Okay.
I don't know if we've got any questions from the audience for either of the two panellists. I know we're about to hear from David Bottomley, so put your hands together, if you would, for our first two speakers.